The name Eugene Orovitz probably means little to the majority of us here this evening and those of you who are joining us from home. But let me tell you a little bit about Eugene. Eugene Orovitz was born on October 31st, 1936, and he was brought up in Collingswood, New Jersey. He attended Collingswood High. And one day the gym coach was teaching a class on throwing the javelin. And all of the students got their opportunity. Well, Eugene was a sophomore at this time, and he was skinny, weighing probably less than 100 pounds. He was last to throw, and some of the kids laughed as he lifted the javelin to throw it. Some even taunted him, as kids do at that age. But Eugene amazed everyone, including himself, by the throw. Eugene, the javelin soared 60, 90, 120, 150 feet, and it crashed into the empty bleachers. His throw was twice the length of the farthest throw from any of the other students. Well, when Eugene retrieved the javelin, he noticed that the tip of it was broken in the fall. The coach, realizing what had happened, set the javelin aside and replaced it with another. Well, after practice, the coach asked Eugene if he wanted the broken javelin because they could no longer use it at the school, and he took it. And that summer, he spent hours practicing in a vacant lot close to his house. By the end of senior year, Eugene was able to throw the javelin 211 feet further than any other high schoolers in the nation that year. Eugene was given an academic scholarship to the University of Southern California. He began dreaming of the Olympics, but then one day he didn't warm up properly, and he tore the ligaments in his shoulder. That put an end to javelin throwing, to his scholarship, to his dreams. All his hard work gone down the drain. It was as if God had slapped him in the face after giving him such a great gift. Eugene dropped out. This was his freshman year. He dropped out of college. He took a job in a warehouse. Eugene Orovitz's story raises a vexing question that I suspect many of us have asked. Why does God let misfortune seem to wreck the lives of so many good people? Why does God let suffering touch so many lives? We have some good examples in today's scripture with Jeremiah and with Paul. Why did God allow good men like Jeremiah and Paul to be ridiculed, to be rejected, as we saw in today's readings? Why did God allow tragedy to put an end to Eugene Orowitz's dreams? Maybe Jesus, in his own ways, is throwing some light on that question in today's gospel passage when he says, "Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Jesus is obviously referring to finding life after we complete our sojourn on the earth. But maybe he's saying that we can. It's not necessarily in the next life. It can be right here as well that we can find life. God can and does often use suffering and tragedy to give a different direction to people's lives. Going back to Eugene for a moment, we left him working in a warehouse. But one day a friend of his, a struggling actor, asked him if he might help him with his lines. And Eugene obliged. And then he himself got interested in acting, and he enrolled in acting school. And his big break came when he was cast as little Joe Cartwright in Bonanza. And that show ran on TV for 14 years. Later, he got the lead in another long-run TV show, Little House on the Prairie. So you know who I'm talking about. Michael Landon, of course. He changed his name. He actually found the name Michael Landon in a phone book and he liked it. That's how he took his name. But Michael Landon often said later that the best thing that ever happened to him was that day when he tore the ligaments in his shoulder. It certainly didn't seem like that at the time. What seemed an incredible tragedy turned out to be an incredible blessing. It guided him into a new life that surpassed by far the dreams of his old life. Life brings a lot of suffering and many tragedies. Tragedies that are very difficult to explain or to make sense of. I'm certain that many of you praying with me here and those of you praying from home this afternoon could share examples from your own lives. We all have them. The suffering in our nation and in our world at this time looms high for many of us. I've asked God many times, why? I suspect you have too. All we can do in times like this is continue trusting in God, believing that one day we will see the larger picture. But amidst the suffering and the tragedies, God has sent angels who offer strength and support and healing, who offer compassion, love in the face of tragedy. God's face is there through the presence of his angels. There's an old poem by an unknown author. It's called The Folded Page. And I'm going to give you a short paraphrase of it. Up in the attic of our old house, as raindrops patter down on the roof, I sat paging through my old school book. I came to a page that was folded down. Across it was written in my own childish hand, "The teacher says we should leave this for now. It's too hard to understand." I unfolded that page and read it. Then I smiled and nodded my head and said, "The teacher was right. Now I understand." There are many pages in the book of life that are hard to understand. All we can do is fold them down and write, "The Master says to leave this for now. It's too hard to understand." The sufferings and tragedies of our lives are often beyond our understanding. On such occasions, maybe all we can do is fold down the page and write, "It's too hard to understand right now." Someday, hopefully in heaven, we'll be able to unfold that page, reread it and say, "The Master was right. Now I understand." Even when we don't understand, God is at work. And maybe a challenge to bring with us is to identify a time of pain or tragedy in my life, in your life. God was present through his angels. And maybe the question to ask ourselves, who were the angels that God sent at that time? Because even when we don't understand, God is at work.